We have a very important conversation to have with Nathan Spiteri. He's a filmmaker and sexual abuse survivor, and lucky for us, he's gonna share a very important and personal story with us. Nathan, good evening, how are you?
Good evening, thank you for having me.
I'm glad to have you here. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, very important month, and I know, and it should be important for all of us, but unfortunately we still have to do the work to get the awareness out there. And I also know this is pretty personal for you. Do you mind just, open forum, share a little of your story with us?
Sure, I'm Australian, grew up in Australia. I was abused as a kid from 8 years old through to about 11, 12 years old. And this guy threatened me and my family with my life. He told me if I told anyone he'd kill me, he'd kill my family. I kept it a secret for 20, 25 years, didn't tell a soul, my parents, friends, no one. And as a result, I went down a very dark road of drugs and violence, and finally hit rock bottom before coming out the other side and doing therapy, group therapy, AA, Narcotics Anonymous, Sex Anonymous. And, in my therapy and in my time with people, they're all saying, Nathan, you should start writing this story, write it down. So I started writing it down, and then from there, we realized that it could be an amazing story to share with people and a script. So I've now just finished writing a script, and I truly believe that this happened to me for the reason to educate the masses, to educate people and say, listen, this happens every single day. It doesn't discriminate, race, religion, color. It's all over the world, and it's something that's very prevalent. But people still turn a blind eye to it. They don't want to know about it. They sweep it under the carpet, and especially when it comes to men. It's still such a taboo subject for men to come out and talk about. It's still such a macho thing, and we keep it all inside. And what I've learned is through all this that there are so many men who have kept it inside and end up killing themselves, abusing themselves, and abusing children. Violence and drugs going down the road I did, but I was lucky enough to get the help I needed and kind of come out the other way, come out the other side, and now I just want to share my story and help other people.
Well, I'm so thankful you're here sharing your story with us. I think it takes a lot to be able to do this, and you're helping people. You've been working with child abuse organizations in Australia and I hear in the US as well. What do you think is the most important message you try to get across?
I think just for people to educate themselves. I think people need to learn more about child abuse and how to help others, and just to listen and to believe people who have been abused. I think that's one big thing, and it's something that happens all the time, is that people try and come out and tell their story, and there's a lot of people out there who don't believe them and tell them, oh, it's okay, just get on with it, just get over it and live your life and move forward. And it's something that people can't do. It's with me, I still have my bad days, good and bad days, and have my dark moments. And I think it's just for people to educate themselves, to listen, to just support and love these people who have been abused.
You brought up something a second ago. You said that it's still kind of a taboo subject, especially with men, and I think it comes down to shame and society, and how society treats survivors of sexual abuse, especially men. How do we break down that barrier where we can all get to a place to where there's an understanding that the shame is not on the survivor?
I think, again, just through education and for more people who have been abused to come out and tell their story, because that's the only way people are going to learn about this. That's the only way people are going to listen, is by hearing other people tell their story. And I'm sure there's plenty of people in the world who don't know that their parents have been abused, or cousins or aunties and uncles, because they've kept it inside. And, I think it's just all about education and people learning about this situation. And it is such a prevalent thing. And I think just to listen and to help.
I think that that's really important to say. While researching you, because I want to talk about what you mentioned, that it took decades for you to open up about what happened to you as an 8-year-old little boy. And while researching you, I read about the moment where you told your family finally about the abuse, and it was obviously many, many years later, and they were sad and upset for you. But there was something your sister said, and I think it was really important. I think I recalled her saying it made sense. She had remembered noticing changes in you as a child, and it made me think, what are some things that people close to young children should look out for?
Absolutely. I think parents especially, they need to just be aware of their kids. I was a fun-loving kid, but then all of a sudden I just kind of fell into a shell and just hid in my corner, hid in my room and played with my cars. And I think for parents, older brothers and sisters, teachers, just adults talking to young kids to say, listen, it's not your fault. It's okay for you to tell me. You're not going to get into trouble. You can tell me what happened. And about my sister coming out and saying that, it was my sister and my mother actually. When I first told them, they actually said, wow, that makes sense. That explains everything about you. And I've had a couple of my best friends in Australia, when I told them, they all said the same thing. Wow, that explains everything. That makes sense. Now we understand why you were the person that you were, why you did the things you did, and why you are the person that you are now.
Wow. How do we get young children? Because you were in a situation where you think you're protecting your family. If I remember the story correctly, if I read it correctly, that this person was threatening to harm your family. So now you have to deal with the abuse and also the fear of safety for your family. How do we get young children to open up and tell if something has happened? What questions need to be asked? How do you provide that comfort in that space for a young child?
I think, again, through educating adults and teachers and parents and just saying, listen, if a man or a woman touches you and you feel uncomfortable or it's not right, tell us. I think it's all about the parents educating the kids at a young age to let them know that, it is okay. You can tell us. You can tell us if something's wrong or if you're not comfortable with something or something has happened to you. You're not going to get into trouble. You're not the one to blame. It's not your fault. So I think it comes down to parents and adults educating these young kids at a young age, at an early age, letting them know that it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to, even if like in my case, I was threatened with my life. If my parents said to me, Nathan, if anyone ever does this or if anyone ever threatens you, or if anyone ever says anything to you, tell us. You're not going to get into trouble. We just want to help you. We're here for you. So I think it comes down to parents and to the adults saying to the kids at a young age, it's okay for you to talk to us. It's okay for you to tell us what's going on. You're not going to get into trouble. It's not your fault.
You mentioned comfort and kids being comfortable, and there's something that I think about all the time that was so normal when I was a kid that I realize now as an adult, like, oh, maybe we should. Not maybe, but we definitely should talk to kids differently and operate differently. And it comes down to like consensual touch. I don't know if you've ever seen a situation where it's a little kid and their grandma wants a hug and their mother says, no, hug her, go hug your grandma. And can you talk a little bit about the power of giving kids and letting them understand that they have the power and control over their body in all situations, even innocent ones?
I think, if the kids know that it's okay and that they have the power, then they have the control. Whether it's a grandmother, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a stranger in the street, if that kid doesn't feel comfortable with the grandmother or the grandfather or the stranger or the teacher or whoever it is cuddling them, then they should speak up. So I think it's all about educating these kids so that they do have the power. They do have the know-how. They have the knowledge. They understand when they're in a situation that they don't want to be in. When they understand that they're in a situation that makes them feel uncomfortable and makes them feel awkward, and they're like, oh my God, something's up here, something's wrong. I don't feel comfortable. It's okay for them to then go to their parents or someone that they're comfortable with, because it may even be a parent, someone that they're comfortable with, to say, listen, I don't like this, or he touched me awkwardly and I just felt strange. So I think it comes down to just educating these kids at a young age and educating the parents and educating these adults so that they can tell these kids and that these kids do get their power and that they can say, don't touch me, or that makes me feel uncomfortable, or they can go and talk to someone that they feel comfortable with.
I think also like adults have to remember to say, no, it's okay if she doesn't want to give me a high five. It's okay if it's okay. You know what I mean? I think, I always think, that's on us too. And speaking of adults and when you should be able to say, no. Everyone's been talking about Joe Biden and kind of non-consensual, but seemingly innocent touching, but it's touching that's made people uncomfortable, and he kind of apologized for it. What were your thoughts and reaction kind of seeing this news cycle?
See, it's such a tough one because everyone takes sexual abuse differently. For me and for you, we can both get touched on the shoulder at the same time by the same person, but the way you're going to take it and the way I'm going to take it could be completely different things. You may think it's the worst thing in the world, and you know, you go ahead like all these other ladies have and said, listen, he's touching me inappropriately, and I get touched on the shoulder. It's like, yeah, he's just touching me on the shoulder. So it's, I don't know, what is sexual assault? How do we define it? How far does someone have to go before it is sexual assault? Whether it is a touch on the shoulder, whether it is grabbing someone on the hand or kissing him on the cheek or giving him a hug. So it's such a tough situation because everyone acts differently in these situations. The way I'm going to act is completely different to the way you're going to act. So, but for me, I think because of what I've been through, because of my experiences, I don't know. I don't think it's that bad, but then I don't want to take it away from these people who, you know, like I said, they can get touched on the shoulder and it's the worst thing in the world for them. For them, it is sexual assault. And so it's such a touchy subject. It's such a fine line because what you think is sexual assault, I may not think is sexual assault. Right. So, you know, how do we do it? How do we draw a line? What's right and what's wrong?
I guess it starts with us having the conversation. So I'm glad we're doing that. Having
the conversation, educating ourselves, and just, you know, realizing what is right and wrong. Joe Biden should know what is right and what's wrong, and how far he can go, and how, you know, what is invading someone's personal space. You know, you should know that. Mm-hmm. You're a grown man. You're an adult.
Nathan, I am so thankful for you being here and having this conversation with us. I think it's a pretty important topic. Where can our viewers watching find out more about you and the work that you do?
Absolutely. I guess the main one is on my Instagram page. Mm-hmm. It's just Nathan Spiteri. Get me on that, or I have my website, nathanspiteri.com, which is actually being updated right now. So that should be ready to go in a few days. But for now, follow me on Instagram. Get me on that. I have my message coming across on that and what I'm doing and who I'm working with. So get me there, and then we can, you know, hopefully move forward. And I have, like I said, I have this script that I've written now about my life, which is also going to help educate people, and it's really going to get the story out there. So, you know, let's start with Instagram and let's build it from there.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much again for being here.
Absolutely, thank you.
Like what you see? Click the subscribe button below, and don't forget to ring the bell to never miss another video from the Young Turks.